All right, if you're on here, let's see, we got some folks on. If you want to turn your camera on so we can see you, we'd love to see you. We are sharing this on Facebook Live as well. And what we're going to be talking about today, I think is very, very important. I coach a lot of people, as you know, on generating revenue, generating money, building excess cash, activating their prey drives so that they can go produce financially. And one of the biggest confusions that I have had personally in my own life, from going from being a high school basketball coach to a business guy that built a multi-million-dollar company, is what to do with money when I generated it. And there's a lot of confusion. Confusion is randomness in motion. There's a lot of confusion about what people should do when markets are uncertain. Why are markets uncertain? Do you have money tied up in things that you can't get access to, or you're frustrated because it's not growing, or you're watching yourself lose money during this cycle? And nothing is more frustrating than working hard to generate money and then putting it into something and then lose, and then sitting there watching and then feeling like you're completely powerless. I know my mom is doing this right now. My stepfather is doing it right now because they have money tied up in retirement accounts that through their companies. And they're watching that money that was up, go down, down, down. And so what we're going to talk about today is, what does it mean to be financially unshakable? What should you do? What are options? What's really going on with the economy? Because I think the biggest confusion is when you make money, or you're told certain things. You're told where to store that money. And many times by maybe well-intentioned people, but they put you into bad instruments. I know I've been in some REITs that a guy put me in that I really trusted, and I cannot, for the life of me, get out of them. It's like, for love of God, I can't sell. I can't get out. I'm just sitting there watching it go down the drain, and it's so freaking frustrating to be in this situation of knowing you worked hard to generate income. You trusted somebody, you put it into an account thinking it was going to grow, and then when it's not working, you can't get access to it. So what we're going to talk about today is, what should people be doing with their money? What are some options people can do with their money? And I brought one of my business partners, Ryan Micheal, in, who is really one of the top money experts in the country. And he's got a deep understanding of the economy, a deep understanding of what's going on with the market, a deep understanding of financial instruments, of where you put money, what's working, what's not working. And so Ryan, good to have you today. You're up in Michigan, right?
Yeah, it's cold up here. It's cold up here.
I keep saying I'm going to have a summer house in Michigan at some point. And I do have my eye on a retreat site up in Michigan. I'm just trying to figure out how we can generate income with it. But I have found a place that I absolutely love up in Michigan. I'm just trying to figure out if I can make it work on what I want it to work. But I got a passion for it. So Ryan initially came in as one of my coaching students. He had a lot of prey drive, very skilled. We formed an insurance company together. And then what I've watched him do is really find his space and accelerate and become one of the top financial experts in the country. So Ryan, give us an overview of what's really going on in the economy. If you were to break it down and break it down, what would you say is like, this is what's really happening?
Yeah, so let me, I'll absolutely get to that. And again, guys, thanks for jumping on. I appreciate all of you guys giving us your time. And we're in a really unique spot right now. And I've been very, very blessed to work with, thousands of individuals. And we're working with roughly 50+ million a year in new business. And so I only tell you that because we see a lot of different scenarios, whether you're young in life and you're just starting to save money, or you're trying to grow, you're trying to accumulate wealth for retirement, or you're going into that preservation stage. We work with so many different clients. We have a vast array of scenarios we run into. And so what that does is it gives me a really good understanding from a 10,000-foot view of not only what's going on, but what different individuals at different times in their investing life cycle, what they're seeing, right? And so I've been doing this now for 15 years. I've been very blessed. I'm in the top 1% in the entire country of index strategists. And we've worked very hard to get there. But what I did is, when I started 15 years ago, guys, I'm 33 years old right now. And when I started, I was 18, right out of high school, went to college for a little bit and started working at Merrill Lynch. And I tell you that to say this is when you have a 19-year-old young, hungry advisor coming to you wanting to move $500,000 or $250,000, not many people want to give their money to an 18 or 19-year-old, right? And so what I had to do is I had to become extremely educated in this space. I studied not only from the top experts in the industry, but also from the greatest minds out there. And one thing that we know without a shadow of a doubt is no one can predict what's going to happen. No one, absolutely no one. They can make an educated guess, but predicting what's going to happen is a crapshoot. And we've seen that especially with this last couple of years with COVID and what COVID did. And so what we do is we look at something called hedging the downside, where we just take a client's portfolio and we say, what's the worst case scenario if the market does flip, if this does happen? And so what we've done is we went back and we've studied the market all the way since the inception of the market. And I'm going to make full circle to this, Coach, but there's 3 things that we know without a shadow of a doubt that the market does based on history. The first one, guys, is the market always continues to grow. Now, the market grows over hundreds and hundreds of years. And so what you and I see, Coach, is we see the ups and downs. We see the roller coaster within the economy, but it always gradually grows. The second thing we know without a shadow of a doubt is that every year we have a correction within our market. Now, these are very simple things that we try to break it down so you guys can understand and you can apply regardless if we ever work together. I want you to be able to apply this. I want to educate you guys while you're here. And so we know that 90% of all corrections happen within the 4th quarter. Now, a correction is not a downturn. A correction is just very, very simply the market is trending up. It's just going to level off. It's got up pretty high. It's going to level off, come down. Actually, in 2022, we saw a correction in the reverse. Our S&P 500, the S&P 500, which is the top 600 companies in the U.S. economy. So like, let me give you an example. If Coca-Cola is having a bad day, the whole market's not having a bad day. If Walmart's having a bad day, the whole market's not having a bad day. If the S&P 500 is having a bad day, the market's having a bad day. And so the S&P 500 in November was down 24% on the year, which was staggering. And it corrected in the last 2 months, and we ended up down 18% on the year. Now, big down year for us, but we had that correction. The third thing that we know is every 7 to 10 years, we have a downturn in our economy. We have a recession in our economy. And so let's talk about those for a little bit. The last one that you guys probably felt prior to this was 2008, when the mortgage industry, we felt the mortgage industry pop. Before that, 2000, which was the dot-com bubble. And before that, Black Monday, 1987 Black Monday. And that was based off of news articles coming out with articles that created panic within our market. And so that's just the last 3. You can continue to look every 7 to 10 years at this downturn. And guys, the biggest thing is in June, and Coach, you can cut me off anytime you want, but in June of 2019 was a world record month. And it was a world record month for the longest running bull market in U.S. economy. And so June, July, August, September, all the way through the end of the year, world record month. And we know what goes up must come down, but also when we're in the longest bull run of the market, something's going to happen. We're at the end of our stretch, like something's going to go on. And so I'm a part of a group in Michigan where it's some of the top advisors in the state. We're not related in any way. We don't share business. We just meet and put our minds together to talk about what we could do better for our clients. And we actually brought in someone from the Federal Reserve. This is December of 2019. And we just said, hey, what is going to happen? What's going on? Our market's up. We're running. We're trotting good. What's going to happen? And the gentleman that came in, his name was Frank, and from the federal government. And he's just said, auto loans are high. There's 7.4 million people delinquent on the auto loans because they were doing subprime auto loans. But everything that we see is we'll be able to fight through that. And we have another 2 to 3 years of a really strong market, even with the car loans going high. Guys, what no one could have predicted was COVID and the effects that COVID had on our economy. These last 3 years, without a shadow of a doubt, have been the most challenging years we've ever seen as a nation. And it's created a lot of volatility and uncertainty. And in March, when the announcement of COVID happened, our market dropped 27% in the month of March. That 1 month just rocketed down. And so the government said, hey, we have to do something. We got to do something. And what happened is they started launching these stimulus packages. And the problem is the economy bounced back 24 of the 27% it lost. And so now we have an economy riding on kind of this falsified backbone of a stimulus package. And every time that the market would get shaky, a new stimulus package would come out. And again, I think they had to do something. I think it was great. But now let's fast forward to the current, like right now in these current times, we have inflation hedging at 7% right now. It's been higher, but the difference is it's never got this high this quickly. So we're seeing a 6-month turn of inflation rising. We have rates rising extremely fast. And then not only that, mortgage foreclosures, and this is all, you can fact check all this. This is all ran through our compliance department, but foreclosures are up over 80% from last year. And then we now have delinquent on auto loans are at 9.7 million people are delinquent on their auto loans. And so now it's like you can't continue to push stimulus packages into the economy because it would just hurt inflation even more. And so, and I'm not saying all this to scare anybody by any means, but there's tools and resources out there that can really, really help you depending on your scenario, because everyone has a different scenario, to capitalize on these times. And so that's kind of like the 10,000-foot view up to this point. And so, Coach, I'll let you take it because that was a lot of talking.
Well, I guess my first question to everybody here is, how many of you would sense in your marketplace an instability or an uncertainty in the marketplace, and basically what you do? Or how many of you have put money into an investment with little or no control and it has underperformed? And, and you're sitting there just going, okay, why did I do this? Why did I put money into this investment? And why is it not working? So when I think about being financially unshakable, this is, a lot of people spend more time planning their vacation than they do planning their life, folks. Right. They spend, and they definitely don't sit down and go, okay, I'm at A financially, and I'm trying to get to B financially. And B is the number. B is something. But because there's a big reason I want to get to B, and what is my strategy to move from A to B? Okay, what is my financial strategy to move from A to B? So where I made a lot of mistakes is 30 to 35 when I started to generate income. I didn't really know what to do with that income, and people sold me products. And I put money into certain things, and I just kind of didn't pay attention to it. Didn't really know. Couldn't understand it for the most part. Didn't really even understand what they were doing. Oh, yeah, we're going to invest it in REITs, and we're going to invest it in this, and we're going to do this, and this is doing well. And then I look back a year later and I had the exact same amount of money I had when I put in. And then I look back 2 years later and I'd have the exact same money that I originally put in. Then I look back 3 years later and I'm like, man, I'm at the exact same amount of money I put in 4 years ago. Yeah, well, it grew this much and then it lost this much, and then but over the life cycle, and I'm thinking, do you think I'm an idiot? Like, do you think I'm going to do this for 30 years? And I still got the same amount of money 30 years that I did, right? Like, this is really literally how it happened. And they always had an answer. They always said, well, this, oh yeah, but this one is up 15%, but that one's down 7%. And this one's up this, and, and it was a total disaster. So I really quit doing it. And I said, man, I ain't doing this anymore. I'm even embarrassed that I did it to begin with, that I was so unintelligent, if that's a word. I'm like, I worked too hard for that money to give it to somebody for it to sit here and for it to sit here like this and not do anything. But worse, yeah. I'm losing money. Yeah. So why do people do that? Number one, how many of you guys on this call have done that? Anybody on this call done that? Okay, so it's like you got no control. You don't know what's going on. It's losing money. You don't even understand what they're investing it in. And I'm sitting there like, this is crazy. So number one, Ryan, why do people do that? Well, and number two, what's the alternative? What's the alternative to that?
Yeah, so this is kind of a deeper question or a deeper answer, and I'll walk through it. But a lot of the times, people make these decisions based on emotion, and they make it based on the information that they're getting. And so right off the rip, I want to tell you that if you're working with a financial professional, make sure you're having routine meetings with them at least once a year. And I would encourage everyone to know the title of the financial professional you're working with. One that I like is a fiduciary. If I'm working with a fiduciary, I know that they have a moral obligation to do what's in my best interest. And a lot of times, and I'm not saying anything bad, but brokers have a little bit different of regulations to them. And so the other part is, and I don't want to dive too far into that, but my recommendation is to work, know the title, and have routine visits with them. And here's another part, and this is what we've seen tremendously these last 3 years, is you have to understand what you're comfortable with. Like where is your risk tolerance? If you lost $10,000 in a year, how would you feel about that? Where, when do you want to retire? What amount do you want? And so every person is different, but every person has a different strategy based on what their goals are and what their risk tolerance is. And we use something called the rule of 100, which I'll get into in a minute, but it's a very simple rule of 100. But the other thing that I want to touch on is from 2010 to 2019, longest running bull market in US economy, I've saw folks that were 50 years old that say, hey, we're moderate, we're not aggressive, we're not conservative, we're moderate, and we don't want to get ultra aggressive because we're getting ready, we're in our accumulation stage, which is you're accumulating money for retirement, and we're getting ready to move to our preservation stage, which we're going to preserve the money that we worked so hard for, and we're going to utilize that money, so we don't want to get too aggressive. Well, what happened is in 2012, 13, 14, these guys are sitting moderately, but the advisor or the broker or whoever it is might make a little adjustment, might make another little adjustment, might make another little adjustment. And then 4 years later, those little adjustments have added up tremendously, where the client that once wanted to be moderate is now very aggressive within the market. And so, and what happens is when you have that long of a bull run, I started in 2008, guys, was my first year in this. And so I learned very, very harshly 2008, 2009, and 10, what was going on. But the anyone that started in 2010, and let's say you started working with that broker from 2010 and 2015, all they knew was an upbound market. All they knew was that the economy was on a trajectory going up. And so they would place you in products based on your goals, and they would always have success. And those advisors were never really tested until the market became volatile. And so that's why we do something called hedging the downside. What does your worst case scenario look like, and how can we protect against that? And it's all education based on years of how many years you've been doing this, what you've been doing. So the advisor might say, hey, I know a ton of people, coach, that got into RITs. And when I see those, I'm like, oh my God, because in 2015, 2016, 2017, they were really hot. I got clients today that have been in them for 5 years and they're stuck. They're welded in those things, and they've lost 50, 100, 200 grand, because once you get in something like that, you can't get out. So the other thing that happens, and this is really important, and then I'll kind of digress, is people do their fact checking and their due diligence after they've made the decision. And you got to be really careful doing that. A lot of times when I sit down with the client and I'm new to them, they've been with their current advisor 5 years, they will do their due diligence on me and the strategy that I'm putting together like crazy. And that's good. But then you ask them, did you do this due diligence initially when you first started working with X advisor? Oh, no, I didn't, but I had a bad experience, so now I'm going to do my due diligence. Well, you really have to, one, I know it's hard, it's complicated. You have to find someone you can trust because they're giving you this financial advice, but you have to do some due diligence, and you have to do it with an open mind, right? And I'll give you just a quick example. A lot of people, I work with all sorts of indexes. I work with index mutual funds, index annuities. I work with tons of it. My strategy is indexing. But a lot of people, when annuities were let's say 2008, they were not appealing. Annuities started as a pension style program. They were meant so you'd put money in, you have no access to that money, and then you would take monthly or annual distributions, and it would subsidize your income in retirement. Well, now, guys, these products have changed so much that drastically, it's like if you buy a Cadillac Escalade in 1998 and you bought one in 2023, those vehicles, both nice vehicles, drastically different with the bells and the whistles and everything they come with. And that's what these products have done. And so now, I was on a podcast the other day. It was called Not Your Father's Annuities. And annuities are just a tool. Okay. They're not the whole thing. They're just a tool in your tool bag. But they can give you substantial income with growth and safety. And right now, because of the rates going so high, our average index client is earning 9% per year, our average client, which is in a volatile economy, guys, that's really good, right? That's really good. And with no market risk. There's absolutely no market risk in those products. But go ahead, coach.
So basically, you're saying to be financially unshakable, how does one do that? If they have money to invest, hey, number one, let's just play me out, for example. Could I get my money out of these godforsaken investments that I have that's losing money. Could I get it out of that? Is there a penalty to getting it out of it? Number one, can you roll them over into something else? Is there a way to get it out of the REITs for people who have money tied up in something? Is that possible? Number one.
Yeah. So every product is different. Okay. So whether you're in old annuities or stocks, bonds, mutual funds, or whatever the case is, every product's different. And so there is the difference between movable and non-movable money. I will tell you that non-traded REITs are not movable. You can't move those things. So as far as that goes, Coach, for you, you're locked in there. Now, the difference is someone should meet an X number of net worth before they start getting into those kinds of investments. That's where the fact finding happens on a very high level, because with me being a fiduciary, I have to do what's in my client's best interest, or I could legally get in trouble. And so if my client doesn't meet a certain criteria, I have to do different things within their planning. And that's where we go to the rule of 100. So the rule of 100, this is Warren Buffett's rule of 100. We use it with every single client we have. And it just says that, let's say, I'm just going to say 60 for a number. Let's say you're 60 years young. And so 60% of your money should be in non-market risk investments. They could be in CDs, they could be in MYGAs, which are multi-year guarantees. They could be in fixed annuities or SPIAs or indexed annuities, but they should be somewhere where you can't lose any of that money. Then the other 40%, you can then start to get a little more aggressive with. If you want some stocks, some mutual funds, if you want, I know Apple has some really, they have some unique I bonds just come out recently. And so you could get into that and you could get a little more aggressive. The rule of that is, if the market takes a 10% hit, you took a 10% hit on 40% of your money, not a 10% hit on 100% of your money. And every 5 years, you have to really evaluate where you're at, because we say that the nucleus of a family changes every 5 years, whether that's personally, whether that's the market, whether that's your job, someone's passed away, something shakeable, right? Something that could shake your foundation happens once every 5 years. And so we're always looking at, what can we be planning for based on your goals and based on where you want to be, to make it so you're not in that shakeable position. And a lot of that comes down to, having an open mind and being open with what you're truly comfortable with. Because I work with a lot of individuals. And so I love the idea of, I always like my clients to hold me accountable, but I always hold my clients accountable. And so if you get someone that says, I want to be in the market, I want 20%, I want this and this and this, I would probably refer them to another advisor. I wouldn't personally work with that person that wants 20 to 30% returns and a lot of risk. But then what happens is they come back to you and they say, oh my God, I lost 30% last year. Ryan, what the hell were you doing? And it's like, well, you want it based on what you wanted in your plan is why we allocated the money like this. And so, you really have to have a good understanding, because people lose the concept, Coach, when the money is on paper. When it's on paper, they lose the dollar value. Like if I had $200,000 sitting on this table and I walked up and took 30 of it, you would find a way to stop me before I got out of this office. You would tackle me, you would do something. But when it's on paper, people forget the value of that dollar. And so there's a lot of things you can be doing. And the biggest thing is having a deep conversation with your financial professional. And I do a rule of thumb. With my clients, we talk once a quarter. We sit down once every 6 months, and then once a year we do a deep dive. What's changed? Where are you at? How are things going? What do we want to do to change what, are we still on the right trajectory for your plan? So there's a lot of things that you could be doing right now.
So right now, what are people doing? Let's just walk through that. How many of you have even thought about your investments during this period? Anybody thought about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of people have. And one of the biggest things we see is, because of the volatile times, a lot of people have an emotional tie to their money right now. A lot of people see the volatility, and one of the things I can tell if a client is conservative or moderately conservative is, when you get your monthly statement or your quarterly statement, do you have a little bit of turning in the stomach when you open that statement? How do you feel when you're opening that statement up? Because if you can open it up and you're like, I'm down $10,000, no big deal, then you have a higher risk tolerance, right? But what we have right now is we have people pulling out of the market and sitting in cash higher than we've ever seen. I sat down with a guy yesterday. He got 4 accounts with 100,000 in each account, just sitting in the bank. And guys, you have to think about, at 7% inflation, just on 500,000, you're losing 35,000 a year in buying power on just in the market right now. And if you compound that over 2 or 3 years, the banks are not investing institutions, they're loaning institutions. You go to a bank to get a loan. You don't go to a bank to invest your money. And so you go to a financial advisor or an investment specialist to invest your money. And so it's really important to understand those factors. If you want concrete safety, which some people do, if you want concrete safety, rates are at all-time high right now. We have MYGAs, multi-year guaranteed products. They're 3 to 5 years. We're locking in 5 to 7% guaranteed per year. That's way better than any CD can do. And then the other part is, and you have to be very careful about this, is depending on how much money you have in the bank, it's not as safe as you think. and you got to be careful going down that path. But once you start getting over 300,000 in the bank, you got to really, really look at what you could do with your money to get it earning interest for you. Now, I will tell you, I work with Athene a lot. Athene is a highly rated company. They're one of the top index companies in the world right now, rated A+ by A&M Best and Standard & Poor's, which are financial rating companies. I work with them a lot because they have a very, very unique product, and I'm not plugging them. I'm just trying to give you guys an example. They have an index that's guaranteed not to lose. You're guaranteed not to lose any money, but there's no cap on the rate of return that you earn. So if if you can earn 20, 30, 40% in a year, now that's really high, but you can earn 10 to 20% a year with no market volatility and have full access to your money still. Well, how's that possible? There's a trade-off. You pay a fee to be in that product, right? So you got to look at what the trade-off is, right? Do you want safety, but then do you want liquidity? Well, those are two things that are hard because CDs and MYGAs don't have liquidity, right? So then what are you going to do to get safety and liquidity and growth, right? You will pay a fee. Did you have a question, Ms. Baker? I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, just curious what the fee on that particular product you were mentioning is, and relative to the 5 to 7% return that you were speaking of.
Yeah, so that product actually is higher than 5 to 7% return. 5 to 7 is an industry average. On that particular product, the fee is 2.15% annually. That's based off the growth of the money. But we average 9 to 10% in that product. And the reason we average such a high, and that's over 5 years. And the reason we average such a high return is they give a 16% bonus to move your money right up front. On that one product. So if you have $1 million, and that's a big number, but I'm just trying to go easy math here. If you have $1 million, you get 160 grand real time in your account earning interest. So really unique product and safety, liquidity, and growth. Go ahead. Yeah, you can.
Just curious again. So is it a lock? Is it a 5-year lock? Is there like a back end surrender charge if you wanted to get out early?
Yeah, so there's liquidity every single year. Great question. I appreciate you asking these questions. And again, this is based on one product. So we have hundreds of products to pick from, but on this one product, there is. So they give you 10% liquidity per year. So again, easy math on $1 million, you could have $100,000 a year, which is really good liquidity, guaranteed no loss. And then if you decided to withdraw, so I had a client last year say, and each product's different, so I'm not going to go over exact numbers, but I had a gentleman last year take out double his 10%. He took out 20%. And it was on, he was allowed to take out $40,000. And he said, Ryan, I want $80,000. And so on the additional 40, he paid a $3,500 fee for the additional 40,000. So you can access the money. The biggest thing that we look for is NVA, which is market value accumulation. And that just means that, if the market's down, let's say you get in this product and the market's tanked for a long period of time, they'll make you eat some of that tank if you pull all of your money out, because it is, they range from 5 to 10 year as far as guaranteed no risk. And again, that's only on this one product, because I have hundreds I could pick from. But right now that Athene product is literally the number one product in the nation right now, because it's uncapped on the growth. Go ahead.
Sorry. So what would you say to people who say, why wouldn't I just go to Treasury Direct and with the inverted yield curve buy 2-year treasuries that are like at 5%?
You absolutely can. And again, this is where that's a great plan. It just all depends on who you're talking to, what their scenario is, what their goals are, because that might be the best plan for someone that wants a short-term, safety. I want growth. That could be great. But if someone's saying, hey, I'm 50, this money's in an IRA, I plan on retiring at 65 and I'm not going to touch this money. I have a 401k at work. I want long-term growth, and they have a longer time horizon. This is a better product for them. If they have a shorter time horizon, then we'll look at different products. But yeah, that's where it's like on my job, I have to understand exactly what that client wants to achieve and what the timeline there is to meet their goals. And then not only the timeline, but where do they fall in their risk factor? Because I partner with other advisors. I got a gentleman that I work with. I refer him millions of dollars a year, and he's ultra aggressive. Even right now in the volatility, like he eats this stuff up. And I would never shake a stick in that because it's not my lane, right? I specialize in index strategies for safe investing. And so I have a guy, right? I have a guy. And that's what you're supposed to do. Like, it's okay. This is a big thing too. Like, if you have one advisor or one broker that tries to achieve all of these things for all these different clients, like, I don't want, what do they say? A jack of all trades, master of none, or something like that. Like, I'm going to a financial professional. And so I want someone that specializes in X. And if I want, and I'll tell the client this too, like, listen, let's put half your estate in index funds or in bonds. And then the other half of your estate, you want to get aggressive. I have a gentleman. He's a phenomenal person, been in the industry a long time. We work very hand in hand together. I want him to work with you on the other part of the money, because I don't need it all, guys. Like, you don't have to be greedy. In this day and age, you have to do what's best for the client. Because if you don't, the second they leave, there's information everywhere. You can get online, you can get on your phone, you can talk to someone at the coffee shop. And then what happens is they come back and they say, why'd you put me in this? Oh, because I was trying to solve all your problems. Well, you shouldn't have, right? You shouldn't have. And so there's a new thing that I talk about a lot is value is the new close. They used to say, close your clients or close the deal. No way, dude. You got to provide value. And then you allow the client to make the decision that you are the best fit for them. Go ahead, Ms. Baker.
Somebody else better ask a question, but I'm curious, because you're an index investor, what would you say to somebody who says, tell me why I should work with you as an index investor versus an active portfolio manager that's buying individual portfolios of diversified stocks and bond ladders, for example?
Yeah. So again, that's where all back to fact finding, because I am not a good fit for every single person, right? I'm a good fit for those people that are looking for safety in the volatility. I know I see a lot of people right now, 30 to 40, early 50s, where they have a 401k out there and it's stagnant because they left their current employer. It's sitting in the breeze right now. And so they're looking to move that money. And if they come to us and they say, hey, this is what I'm trying to achieve. This is how much I want. I'm trying to double my account every 5 years or every 7 years, then we would give them recommendations. But then we have relationships that give those people off to someone else. Because again, we stay in our lane. And so the biggest thing is the fact finding. Guys, compliance, and I don't want to get off, because I know a lot of you guys, some of you guys might be in the investing industry. Some of you guys might be in the consumer part. So you want to invest your money. Know this, that they've passed so many regulations, again, this year with the Securities Act 2.0, that you have to be doing what's in the best interest of your client. And as long as you stay in that lane, as long as you are always doing what's in the absolute best interest of the client, and that sometimes that's referring business away. If you refer business away, that client might go to someone and say, hey, you should go see Ryan, because Ryan actually told me that I was in a good spot and you can make some adjustments, but he wasn't the right guy. And that will earn you business. And so it all depends on the client, because again, here's the other thing too, is the liquidity aspect, right? Like, how much liquidity is someone looking for? If someone has a non-qualified fund, meaning it's post-tax dollars, it's liquid to them, it's not in an IRA or an individual retirement account, they pay taxes on that growth every year, but they can access those funds as well. So like, what does that, it's unique. That's why every single scenario, there's no blanket strategy whatsoever. I appreciate the questions. I'd say questions are always opportunities to grow, build relationship together.
So,
and Ryan, so that's such a good point, because you say you really have to know your client. Tell me about that get to know your client process. I mean, what kind of fact finders do you use? Do you have risk tolerance questionnaires? What kind of stuff do you use to get to know your client?
That's you're 100% right. As far as like, what do we use? Like, I'll go through, and we have probably a 30 question questionnaire that we'll go through. And it just simply asks, what are your goals in retirement? What are you trying to achieve? What, like a really easy one that I do with like 35-year-olds or 40-year-olds is, let's just say in a perfect world, you retire at 55. How much would you like? Now, everyone says $1 million or $2 million, every single person. Okay, well, what does that look like? Because you have other tools. So let's say you want to max out a Roth, right? You want to give a Roth. You have a 401k. Are you maxing out the contribution to your 401k? If you are maxing out a Roth and you have a 401k you're contributing to, does an IUL fit with you, right? So there's a lot of things to get there. And then there's a lot of tools and resources I use as well. So you can use America's 401k, and you can actually go in there and plug in how much you contribute every single month, what you currently have, and then when you plan to retire. And it will, you know, as accurately as possible, show you how much money you will have, and then what the actual rate of inflation is at that time. And so we do have full fact finders. They're roughly 50 questions, 50 to 100 questions. And it really breaks down goals, risk tolerance, fees, what you feel you should be paying an advisor to manage your money. And so there's a lot there. It's a process. And the other thing too is, no knock on this one. There's retail investment companies and private investment companies. And so a retail investment company, and I'm not throwing a stone, so bear with me, but Edward Jones advisors are retail investors. They're everywhere. We got them all up and down, even my area here at Cadillac, Michigan. So what that is you can walk in and you can say, I have $200,000. And by the time you leave that office, they'll invest your money, right? We do not have that process. So when a prospect comes in front of my clients, or excuse me, in front of my agents say, hey, you know, this is what Ryan specializes in. This is where he works. Here's 4 questions we have to see, you know, if Ryan will even do a free consultation. A lot of it has to do with risk tolerance, what your goals are. And then if they think that it would be a good fit, then what I'll do is I'll call the client. We'll have the client come in. The first meeting is just about getting to know that client and their goals. It's about an hour long. I get to meet them. They get to meet me. Sometimes I think they're a good fit. They don't think I'm a good fit. And so we just get to know each other. And then at the end of that first meeting, we say, hey, you know, based on getting to know each other, would you like me to start putting a plan together? And at that time, we'll actually get their full portfolio. And so we'll get their full portfolio and we'll say, we're going to go back. We're going to do our due diligence. We're going to run all of this through. You know, I have compliance suitability illustrations teams here. I'm with a company that has just a tremendous amount of resources. I'm with a company called AE. So they just have a phenomenal amount of resources. We, you know, if I have questions on the way a 401k is out late, I send it to them and they send me back a 10-page paper breaking down every single step. And then we can go back and sit down with the client and say, based on your goals and based on your risk tolerance, here's some options for you. You know, what's your feedback? And again, this whole part now is value. You have to create value and educate the client and allow the client to make the decision. And because we do that, you know, after the third appointment, we work with 90% of the people that get to that third appointment. But there's up to that third appointment, there's a lot of things that happen to make sure we're both a good fit for each other. And that's where, you know, I'm happy to say that I've been doing this long enough and we've had tremendous success in this career where you don't need every single client. And sometimes when you get a new, like a broker, not a broker, just an investment specialist that's been in for 1 or 2 years, they're trying to build that book of business, right? They're trying to get all this in as much as they can. And sometimes they get in over their head a little bit. That's what I was trying to say there. But thank you for all your questions. I appreciate it a lot.
And Angela, I'm wondering because you have a background in banking, right? You came from a bank. Is that where you learned a lot of these things?
I was a subsidiary. Well, when I first got started, I was in the trust department of a bank.
Nice.
And I became a certified financial planner. And then I ended up ultimately in Northern Virginia working for a small independent RIA. And so I have that background. They were a subsidiary of a bank. Yes.
So that's an important thing. So this is really important as well. Being in an RIA is what you want on the fiduciary level, right? So that's the same thing we have. We have a 65, we have an RIA. And so that's where we have, like, as the industry becomes more regulated, this is where knowing what Mrs. Baker does under that RIA, that already tells you you're working with a credible person, right? So these things are, you want to do your due diligence on who you work with, because a lot of people mess it up. They say IRA and it's RIA. But if you're working with a registered investment advisor, that's telling you they're qualified. And that's Series 65, and I don't want to get too far out, but that's like the most boring license to get to, the laws and regulations. So it's you've done a good job if you've got that license.
So right now, Ryan, so this is what I'm seeing. Okay, I made money. I put it into an investment. I listened to somebody. I'm now watching that investment perform poorly.
Yeah.
I feel uncertain. I'm nervous. I'm watching my life savings go down the drain. It's affecting my retirement plans, my future. And so right now, people are coming to you and they're going, look, I got this money. It's not making. I want to save. I don't want to go through this again. I don't know what, it's very unpredictable. What do I need to do? Okay. And then you're doing what? What are you doing for those people?
Well, again, we're doing fact finding and sitting down and sitting, where exactly they fit in their investing license. So there's two things. This is very important. There's your accumulation phase, which is you're accumulating money for retirement. So depending on where you're at in that phase, based on your age and how much you've acquired, it really depends on, like, anyone that's 35 to 45 years old, they're going to be working and contributing to their 401k long after this storm goes away, right? And so the more so is, is that person gearing up for retirement right now? Is that person, are they 55 going on to 60, where the volatility of the market is going to directly affect their retirement decisions? And so that's where you have to look at, again, what their plan is, because index strategies work phenomenally. We work with bonds. We do assets under management as well. We work with SEI. Angela, I don't know if you ever work with them or not. So they're a turnkey, very, very great platform. So we're helping them get right. The biggest thing, though, is when you have this emotion that, oh my God, my money's it's volatile right now. I need to pull my money out. Just know that, one, a lot of times there's some big tax consequences for withdrawing your money and putting it in a bank or putting it under your pillow. And two, there's strategies out there where, and I referred to Angela just because she brought this up, where she'll like, if you're going to a fiduciary or an RIA, you're going to get a good mix of indexes, you're going to get a good mix of growth, you're going to get a good mix of wherever you're at in your life. Because again, if you're 30 years old or 40 years old, again, I use the rule of 100. I would only take 40% of your money and put it into safe investing. The other 60% we know should be in growth model. It should be more growth. And so, the biggest thing is when you feel this pain of the market, reach out to a financial professional, sit down with your financial professional, make sure they understand your goals, because this is big on communicating. You got to let them know how you truly feel, and let them know that if you're not comfortable with risk, what adjustments you could do. Now, I'll tell you, and this is where, Angela and I might differ a little bit, but I will always go index, either index mutual funds or index annuity over bonds every single time. And it's because I feel that the pros, especially with the rates continuing to rise, outweigh the bonds 110, to 1. But that's new because it's the environment that we're currently in. Like back in 2015, index strategies were not sexy. Like they weren't nearly as appealing. You would literally get them most of the time for transfer of wealth, probate avoidance, safety of principal. And so there's different tools depending on what you're trying to achieve. And so again, back to your question, Coach, if you're having that knee-jerk reaction, or if you're having that twist in your stomach, reach out to someone, do your due diligence, get to know who you're talking to, research your own advisor a little bit. And again, we do consultations without obligation, meaning that, like, we know that we're not the best fit for everyone, but we've had a lot of success with the clients that are a good fit for us. And so, if you just really have to, do a little bit of due diligence on who you're working with as well. And that's a tough one. That can be a tough one.
Making some notes here. Well, I think the reason Ryan is really crushing it in his business right now is because so many people are unstable. They'll feel shakeable, not unshakable, and they're looking for somewhere to put their money where the money can grow but not lose the money. And like I said, I think people have gone to different people for a long years, only to find out maybe those people were not that good, and maybe they had good intention. I remember the very first investment I made was a young basketball coach, and a guy from Northwestern Mutual came around and sold me some, I don't know, disability insurance, or he sold me something, right? And the only reason I bought it is because I didn't know any better. I'm like, yeah, I probably need that, and I put money into it, and it wasn't a bad thing, but it was really lack of knowledge. I didn't really know who to go to. I didn't know what to do. And I think during really unstable times, people need to go to experts. They need to do their fact finding. Maybe it's a time. Dr. Hotze is one of my clients, and he always says people are going down the health highway in the wrong direction, and they need to do a 180. And I think what these markets do, Ryan, is they force people to step back and go, hold on a second. Yeah. Now, what is going on with my money? And why have I still got the same amount of money I put in 3 years ago? And there's only so many times a financial advisor can sit there and tell you, well, it's up there and it was down here. It's about to be a good market, though. It's about to be a good time for it. Like, if you knew how many times I have heard this, Like, I know it's down, but I put it into some investments, and then, you know, I bought you some stock here, and that's good. This one's up. And it's like, it gets to the point, it's like, come on, man, it ain't growing. Okay. And it ain't doing anything. So how long are we going to go through this? And then I think people get to that pain point and they're like, all right, who can help me? I am tired of dabbling with my money. This is my money here. This is what I worked hard for. Okay. I need to start planning my future, and I need to get it into something that is safe and secure. I think that's what's happening right now in our country, is that people are looking at every investment. They're looking at every expense item on their P&L. They're looking at every vendor. They're looking at every relationship, and they're going, is this an asset or is this a liability? And the liabilities are getting cut. It's like, that's a bad attitude. That person's out. And that's not bringing any energy to the equation. That one's out. And this ain't making me any money. That's out. And I think that's really what people are doing. So the correction is in people's personal households of going, okay, I'm getting serious about this now. I'm tired of playing around with this. So, you know, I think the next step for some people who are on here, Ryan, if they have interest in taking a meeting with you or doing a strategy session with you, or if you have money that's sitting there, or you're losing money, or you're unhappy with where you're going or what you're doing, then, like I said, I've got money tied up in REITs that make me sick. I'm sick about it. I'm sick right now about it. And I'm like, why did I do that? Like, if I'd have known it's going to be tied up and I couldn't pull it out, and I had to wait for him to sell the real estate for me to get any money out of it, I would have never done it. So that was a bad decision. Okay. Now I ain't making that decision again. So now it's like, all right, where's the best place for me to put my money that I'm working for? Okay. So I think the next step, if people are interested, whether you're watching on Facebook or where you're watching on this, whether you go back and watch this on YouTube, and if you got money that you're watching yourself lose, is to reach out to Ryan, schedule a strategy session, and let him just look at it. And that's typically how it starts.
Yeah. And it's all about getting to know, you know, what you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to do. So, you know, typically our first step again is just getting to know each other, doing fact finding and seeing it, you know, if what I do is a good fit for the client. And a lot of times it isn't, and sometimes it isn't. And so it absolutely just the first conversation, love to work out with people. There's no obligation, you know, to do anything. It's just my goal with this is, guys, we've had a tremendous amount of success. I have, you know, over 1,100 agents that I do business for, and we're doing over 50 million a year in new business. My sole purpose is literally education on this, because you can take what I'm giving you and you can go to any advisor in any state you're in and say, hey, listen, I just got this information. You know, they weren't trying to sales pitch me. They weren't trying to get me to move my money, but like, would it be beneficial to look at index mutual funds? Would it be beneficial to look at, you know, an index annuity? Or would it be, you know, and a lot of times the biggest thing, guys, that you run into is index mutual fund. And I won't beat this up too much, but I'm a big fan of index mutual funds. They don't pay a lot to the advisor. They're very, very low in fees. So a lot of advisors don't like using them. And then index annuities, there's no, typically, there's no ongoing compensation for the advisor. You know what I mean? And so it's like a one-time payout to the advisor, and then they work with you for the rest of your life. And so you know, that's why we have to always continue to work with clients, and we have a very good team, you know, with customer service representatives, and we partner with agents. But you know, that it's not every advisor you go to is going to offer these products, and some will actually try to turn you away from them.
So Ryan, how do they reach out to, if they want to reach out to, for the people watching on Facebook or the people watching in the Zoom today? What would be the first step?
Yeah, so reaching out to me is very easy. I can put my email in the chat, but I have an email, my company emails, and I'll tell it's just Ryan, RYAN @Generations. That's my company's name, generationsifs.com. And then my phone number, my direct phone number is 231-878-7074. If I don't answer, it goes right to my assistant, and my assistant will instantly set up a meeting or a time. And I work with people. I'm licensed in all 50 states. I do a tremendous amount of business in California, Texas, and Florida. And we set everything up via Zoom. And if you get to a point where, when I work with clients where, you know, you're thinking about making a decision, then I fly out, sit down with you, meet in person. And so, yeah, just reach out to me. I'd love to give you information. And my goal is to just leave any individual that I talk to better off than when I first met them.
Yep. Good. All right. This has been, put your email in the chat box there for everybody.
Yeah, on it.
So they can get that. And then if you want to schedule a session to talk about, you know, what you're doing, see if you're headed in the right direction, then people can reach out to you. But this is a time to be looking at everything, folks. I'm telling you, look at everything you got. Look at all your money, look at your investments, look at your partnerships, look at your strategic partnerships. Look and see if they're adding value to your life or subtracting value from your life. Look to see, right? I always teach my people, go where you feel celebrated, not tolerated. Go work with people who value you, and if they don't value you, keep going until you find people who value you. Okay. So this is a very important lesson that I teach. So Ryan, Financial Unshakeable, we'll put it on YouTube. We will push it out to the marketplace. And if anybody wants to reach out to you, let's get them into a meeting and let's see if we can help people.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Angela, thank you for coming in there and asking the questions. You took over my job today, just asking the great questions. I like it.
Oh, no. Thank you so much. I love this topic. It's near and dear to my heart. And I think it's so incredibly important, especially now, as we have this talk of recession, right?
Yeah.
I just think it's so incredibly important. So, but thank you for entertaining my questions.
Absolutely.
All right. You guys have a great day. God bless you. Let's go.